What if I told you that 10 major U.S. cities, places people once believed were safe, stable, and full of opportunity, are now quietly collapsing from the inside out? Rents are falling. Apartments are sitting empty. Entire neighborhoods feel like they have lost their spark. And the most alarming part is this: many residents still have no idea what is coming. From climate-strained desert towns, to former tech havens, losing workers overnight, to commuter cities that suddenly have no one left to commute. Each location hides a problem large enough to break its housing market by 2026. In this countdown, we will move from number 10 all the way to number 1, revealing the cities that are facing the most dangerous rental market decline in the United States. And every city in this list has a twist you will never expect. Cheap rent might look like a blessing at first, until you understand why it is cheap. So let us begin the countdown. Number 10, Toledo, Ohio. The streets of Toledo feel quieter than ever. Apartment buildings that once buzzed with life now stand mostly empty, their windows reflecting a city that seems frozen in time. Rents have dropped nearly 30% in some neighborhoods, a number that sounds like a bargain. But here's the thing. Cheap rent alone cannot save a city, slowly losing its heartbeat. Factories that once powered the economy have shut down. Local businesses, family-owned for generations, struggle to survive or have disappeared altogether. And while prices may seem low, neighborhoods that look affordable on paper are hiding a silent warning. Empty streets, shuttered shops, and vacant apartments are signs that a deeper problem is unfolding. Take Margaret, a retired schoolteacher. She moved to Toledo seeking a peaceful, affordable life, but days now stretch long and quiet, walking streets that once resonated with children's laughter and neighbors chatting on porches. Meanwhile, Jamal, a young professional, left in search of opportunities elsewhere, leaving his downtown apartment vacant for months. Each empty unit is a small, quiet alarm bell, whispers of a city losing its energy. Even families that remain face challenges. Jobs are scarce, schools see declining enrollment, and community events that once brought neighborhoods together now struggle to survive. Cafes, gyms, and local hangouts that once thrived sit empty. The rhythm of daily life slows, and what was once predictable now feels uncertain. And here's the unsettling truth: Toledo isn't alone. Across the United States, cities with falling rents often hide deeper crises. Overbuilding, declining industries, and shifting populations create a perfect storm. Developers who once bet on growth now watch investments shrink. Optimism turns to hesitation, and residents, they wonder if staying is worth it, or if the next city holds the stability and energy Toledo can no longer provide. Walk down these quiet streets, and you can almost feel the tension in the air. Empty apartments aren't just financial numbers, they are the pulse of a city fading. The gap between affordability and livability becomes painfully clear. Rent may be low, but opportunity, jobs, and a sense of community are priceless and increasingly rare here. So, the question looms: can Toledo recover? Or is this a glimpse of what could happen to other cities across America if lessons aren't learned? Every empty street, every silent neighborhood, every apartment that sits vacant is a warning. Affordable housing might attract people, but it cannot revive a city on its own. Toledo teaches us that resilience, opportunity, and community matter more than a bargain on rent. And as we begin this countdown, remember, this is only number 10. The cities ahead hold stories even more shocking, and the twists you're about to hear may leave you questioning the very future of urban America. Number 9, Henderson, Nevada. On the surface, Henderson looks like a desert paradise. Sun-soaked streets, luxury homes, and manicured golf courses stretch as far as the eye can see. But behind the glossy image, a crisis is quietly unfolding, and few realize how close this city is to tipping over the edge. The Colorado River, once a lifeline for the Southwest, is failing to deliver the water. Henderson depends on droughts are worsening, reservoirs are dropping, and families who moved here for sunny skies and spacious homes now face rationed water, rising utility costs, and a lifestyle that feels more like survival than living. What was once a booming city now struggles to sustain itself against forces beyond anyone's control. Developers, fueled by optimism, built hundreds of high-end apartments and townhomes, betting on endless demand, but demand vanished almost overnight. Luxury units sit empty. Rents have plummeted. Buildings once considered prime real estate now feel like ticking time bombs, silent witnesses to an unfolding collapse. Take the Johnsons, who moved to Henderson dreaming of a life in the desert sun. Suddenly, their swimming pool can't stay filled. Lawns brown under heat waves, and daily routines are disrupted by power outages and water restrictions. Or Mia, a young professional, who delayed moving in because utility costs keep climbing unpredictably. Every empty apartment, every for rent sign, is a small alarm. The foundation of this city is cracking. The streets that once teemed with energy now feel hollow. Parks are empty, cafes struggle to stay open, and families hesitate to plant roots. Even wealthier markets, it seems, are not immune to collapse. Henderson teaches a critical lesson. Luxury and affordability mean nothing if the environment that supports them is failing. And here asks the terrifying question: how long can the city survive before these pressures overwhelm opportunity and community? As climate, infrastructure, and human behavior collide, Henderson stands as a stark warning for other cities. A booming housing market may attract residents, but without sustainability, resources, and livability, it can unravel faster than anyone expects. So as we move down the countdown, remember Henderson's story. It's more than a city in crisis, it's a glimpse of the hidden vulnerabilities lurking in urban America. And the cities ahead, they hold twists even more shocking, with stories that will leave you questioning how secure or fragile our communities really are. Number 8. Buffalo, New York. Buffalo, once a city defined by industry, shipping, and tight-knit communities. But winters here are no longer just cold, they're brutal. Snow piles sky high, roads freeze over, and the biting chill isn't just uncomfortable, it's expensive. Heating bills skyrocket. Maintenance costs climb. Staying here feels like a gamble, even as rents drop. Empty apartments line streets that were once alive with life. Landlords watch helplessly as tenants leave for warmer, more predictable climates. And here's the catch. Falling rents may look like a bargain, but in Buffalo, cheap housing comes at a hidden cost. Take the Wilson family. Every winter, they brace for blizzards that can trap them indoors for days. Heating costs eat into their budget, and every icy commute is a gamble. Meanwhile, Marcus, a young professional, has left in search of a more predictable lifestyle, leaving his apartment empty for months. Every vacancy signals a domino effect. Schools see fewer enrollments. Local shops lose customers, and streets lose their energy. The city's charm and history aren't enough to keep residents from leaving. Even long-term Buffalonians find themselves questioning whether enduring another brutal winter is worth it. Every snowstorm, every icy sidewalk, every unexpected power outage chips away at the city's stability. And here's the unsettling truth. Buffalo's problem isn't just weather. It's a reminder that cities heavily dependent on a single-factor climate, industry, or population are fragile. One severe winter can trigger cascading effects across the housing market. Vacancies rise, rents fall, businesses struggle, and community energy diminishes. The streets that once resonated with laughter and daily life now feel hollow. Cafes, gyms, and local hangouts sit quiet. The pulse of the city is slowing, and with it, the hope that Buffalo can thrive in the same way it once did. So the question looms: how many winters can Buffalo endure before its housing market and its spirit finally cracks? And as we move further down this countdown, remember this: the next cities face crises that are entirely different, yet the outcome: empty streets, silent neighborhoods, and vanished opportunities eerily similar. Buffalo teaches a hard lesson. Stability is never guaranteed. Even a city with history, character, and charm can falter when conditions shift too rapidly, when costs rise unexpectedly, and when the rhythm of life itself becomes a challenge to survive. Number 7. Santa Fe, New Mexico, a city celebrated for its art, culture, and scenic beauty. Festivals, galleries, and historic streets once drew visitors from across the country. But now, a quiet disruption is shaking the city, and few realize how fragile its foundation has become. Technology is changing everything. Virtual tours, online galleries, and remote experiences are replacing in-person visits. Hotels sit empty. Short-term rentals that landlords once relied on are now gathering dust. Cafes, small shops, and galleries that thrived on visitor traffic are struggling to survive, and some have already closed. Take Rosa, a gallery owner who built her life around Santa Fe's tourism boom. Her space, once filled with visitors, now sits half-empty. Each day brings the fear that foot traffic may never return to pre-pandemic levels. Meanwhile, Ethan, a local barista, sees his income drop as tourists vanish. The city's energy, once vibrant and constant, is evaporating. Even residents who stayed behind feel the strain. Cultural events that once brought neighborhoods together are now sporadic. Streets that once echoed with music and chatter are quieter. And the unsettling truth: Santa Fe's charm alone cannot sustain its economy. Here's the lesson: cities that depend on a single industry, tourism, in this case, are dangerously fragile. One shift, one technological disruption, and an entire community's livelihood can unravel. Empty streets, vacant apartments, and struggling businesses are all warning signs. And the most alarming part: many residents and business owners don't see the storm coming until it hits. Santa Fe is a stark reminder that stability can be an illusion. What appears safe and thriving can collapse quickly when outside forces intervene. So, as you watch this countdown, remember this city. Santa Fe shows that even vibrant, iconic communities can face quiet crises. Luxury, culture, and charm are not enough if the systems supporting them, visitors, engagement, and economic diversity. The city teaches a hard truth: relying too heavily on one factor, whether tourism, tech, or a booming demographic, is a risk no city can afford. And as we move further down the list, The next cities reveal crises that are entirely different in origin but equally devastating in effect. Santa Fe's empty streets, quiet galleries, and struggling businesses are more than local problems, they are warnings for communities across America. And the story is far from over. Number 6. Boise, Idaho. Boise once hailed as a tech haven, a city that promised scenic beauty, affordable living, and a booming job market. Young professionals flocked here, apartments filled quickly, and developers raced to build more. But then, almost overnight, the tide began to turn, and what follows is a cautionary tale for any city built on a single demographic. Remote work, which had fueled Boise's explosive growth, started reversing. Tech workers returned to coastal hubs or moved abroad, leaving apartments vacant and cafes, gyms, and co-working spaces eerily quiet. The streets that once buzzed with energy now feel hollow. Local businesses that depended on this influx of young professionals are struggling to survive, and some have already closed. Take Emma, a young software engineer who left Boise after her company required her to return to the East Coast. Her apartment remains empty, a silent testament to the fragility of the market. Meanwhile, Carlos, who owns a small downtown cafe, watches daily as foot traffic dwindles. Each empty seat, each shuttered storefront, is a warning. When a city relies too heavily on a single group, even a minor shift can trigger a domino effect. And here's the terrifying reality. Vacancies rise, rents fall, and community confidence evaporates almost instantly. A market that seems stable and thriving becomes unpredictable. Families and individuals who had invested in the city's promise now wonder if they should stay or leave. Boise's story isn't just about empty apartments, it's about lives uprooted, communities destabilized, and the illusion of permanence fading fast. The very identity of the city, once tied to growth and opportunity, is being questioned by the residents who remain. This is a warning for cities everywhere. Dependence on a single factor, whether a tech boom, student population, or seasonal industry, makes housing markets fragile. One shift, one reversal, can ripple through the economy and affect every corner of daily life. So ask yourself, if Boise can falter this quickly, how many other cities are quietly teetering on the edge? The domino effect is subtle at first, but the consequences are devastating and they're often invisible until it's too late. Boise reminds us that stability requires diversity, resilience, and foresight. Without these, even the most promising cities can crumble, leaving behind silent streets, empty apartments, and lives disrupted. And as we continue our countdown, the next cities reveal challenges that are entirely different, yet equally alarming. Number 5. Champaign, Illinois. A city once defined by its student population, bustling campuses, and a rhythm that followed the academic calendar. Apartments were filled with students, cafes, bookstores, and local shops thrived on predictable foot traffic. But now, that rhythm has been shattered and the consequences are striking. Universities shifted schedules, enrollment patterns changed, and students began leaving town in droves. Seasonal rentals that landlords depended on now sit empty for months. Local businesses, once thriving on the ebb and flow of student life, struggle to survive. Cafes see fewer customers. Bookstores close early. Even downtown streets, once lively with energy, feel eerily quiet. Take Hannah, a graduate student who left Champaign unexpectedly when her university moved to hybrid classes. Her apartment now sits vacant, a stark reminder of how quickly the city can lose residents. Meanwhile, Marcus, who owns a small cafe near campus, watches his business collapse as students no longer provide the lifeblood it once did. Every empty apartment and quiet street signals a deeper vulnerability. Here's the unsettling truth. Cities that rely heavily on a single demographic are fragile. When that population disappears, even temporarily, the ripple effect can devastate the entire housing market. Vacancies rise, rents drop, communities lose energy, and residents who remain are left questioning whether the city they love can sustain itself. Champaign's story is more than a college town problem. It's a warning about over-reliance on predictable populations. Markets that seem stable can unravel almost overnight. Streets that once thrived are now quiet. Local businesses that were the heart of the city struggled to survive. And for families, students, and long-term residents, the question becomes not just financial but existential. Can Champaign recover, or is it teetering on the edge of a slow collapse? The city teaches a hard lesson. Stability requires diversity, resilience, and foresight. One unexpected shift, a drop in students, a policy change, a demographic shift can ripple through the economy, leaving empty apartments, silent streets, and disrupted lives in its wake. So as we move further down the countdown, remember this. The next cities face challenges of a very different nature, yet the outcome is equally alarming. The domino effect of dependency, whether on students, tech workers, or industries, is subtle at first but devastating in its impact. Champaign is a wake-up call. When a city depends too heavily on a single group, it risks unraveling faster than anyone anticipates. Number 4. Laredo, Texas. a city long known as a hub for logistics and trade. For decades, warehouses hummed with activity, trucks lined the streets, and families depended on a steady flow of jobs. But now, the rhythm that once defined Laredo is faltering and the consequences are quietly devastating. Automation and technological shifts have replaced countless jobs. Warehouses that were once bustling are quieter now. Streets that once thrived with workers moving between shifts feel strangely empty. Apartments that were fully rented now sit vacant. Unemployment rises, and uncertainty spreads through neighborhoods that relied on stability for generations. Take Rosa, a mother of two, whose husband worked in logistics. Overnight, their household income dropped. Their apartment, once comfortably affordable, is now a financial burden. Meanwhile, Javier, a young man who just graduated from college, struggles to find work in a city that promised opportunity. Each empty apartment, each shuttered business, is a small warning of a larger crisis looming. And it's not just families. Local shops, restaurants, and service providers' businesses that depended on the steady flow of workers are struggling to survive. The energy that once defined Laredo is fading. Streets are quieter. Cafes and gyms that were packed during lunch hours now see sparse attendance. Across town, the lesson is clear. Over-reliance on a single industry is dangerous. When the foundation of a city's economy falters, the housing market quickly follows. Vacancies rise, rents drop, confidence disappears, and residents are left questioning whether to stay or leave. Laredo's story is a warning for any city built on narrow economic assumptions. Communities that appear stable on the surface can crumble beneath their feet if the underlying jobs, industries, or opportunities vanish. Even a city that once seemed resilient can unravel faster than expected. So here's the question. Can Laredo adapt and survive, or is it on the path to slow decline? The stakes are high, not just for residents but for the very identity of the city. Empty streets, vacant apartments, and struggling families are signs that stability is fragile and resilience is not guaranteed. Laredo teaches a hard truth. A city's survival depends on diversity, foresight, and sustainable growth. Without these, even the strongest economic hubs can crumble, leaving silent neighborhoods, empty homes, and displaced families in their wake. And as our countdown continues, the next cities reveal challenges just as shocking, but rooted in entirely different causes. Number 3, Birmingham, Alabama, a city with a rich history and a promising future, or at least, that was the plan. Developers, banking on gentrification, poured millions into luxury apartments and trendy complexes, aiming to attract new, wealthier residents. But the reality has been starkly different. The local economy didn't grow fast enough to support the influx. Buildings that were meant to be symbols of progress now sit largely empty, towers looming over neighborhoods without delivering the promised opportunity. Longtime residents watch as shiny new developments rise but fail to integrate with the community, creating a sense of disconnection and frustration. Take Angela, a lifelong resident who hoped gentrification would bring jobs and vitality. Instead, she sees vacant apartments lining streets that were once lively and local shops struggling to survive. Meanwhile, Jamal, a young professional who invested in a new condo, faces declining property values in a neighborhood that doesn't feel like home. Each empty building, each quiet street corner, is a silent alarm. Economic growth alone cannot revive a city. Birmingham illustrates a hard truth. Cities that rely too heavily on a single strategy or a narrow economic plan are vulnerable. When the foundations falter, housing markets follow. Vacancies rise, rents fluctuate, and the energy of the city diminishes. Communities destabilize, businesses suffer, and residents face tough choices about whether to stay or leave. Even vibrant development cannot replace resilience and diversity. Birmingham's stalled gentrification shows that opportunity and growth must be paired with community integration, infrastructure, and sustainable planning. Otherwise, empty buildings become monuments to miscalculated optimism. The streets, once buzzing with hope, now echo with uncertainty. Cafes, gyms, and local hangouts that should have thrived are left struggling. And here's the unsettling part. Many of these problems are invisible until they hit critical mass. Residents and investors alike are blindsided by vacancies and the slow unraveling of neighborhood energy. So, the question remains, can Birmingham adapt before it's too late, or will the city continue to face the consequences of overambitious planning without sustainable support? Every empty apartment, every closed shop, every disheartened resident is a reminder that economic health isn't just numbers, it's people, community, and the delicate balance between opportunity and reality. Birmingham teaches a crucial lesson. A city must build more than apartments and fancy complexes. It must build resilience, diversity, and connection. Without these, even the most promising urban plans can crumble. And as our countdown continues, the next cities reveal challenges rooted in entirely different forces, but the outcome, empty streets and quiet neighborhoods, is just as alarming. Number 2, Fresno, California, once seen as a haven for families priced out of expensive coastal cities. Affordable rent, wide streets, and a slower pace of life made it a beacon for those seeking stability. But now, affordability alone isn't enough, and Fresno is learning this the hard way. Extreme heat, aging infrastructure, and poor city planning are pushing residents to their limits. Water shortages are becoming more frequent, power outages disrupt daily life, and crumbling roads make commuting and errands a struggle. Apartments remain cheap, yes, but what good is affordability if the very essentials of living are failing? Take Maria, a mother of 3, who moved to Fresno hoping for a safe, stable life. Now, summer heat waves force her children indoors for days, and she spends hours tracking water ration schedules. Meanwhile, Tony, a young professional, struggles to plan his day around power outages and unreliable city services. Every empty apartment is a symptom, every vacant street a warning of deeper instability. And it's not just about comfort, it's about opportunity. Local businesses face disruptions, schools struggle to maintain normal operations, and families question whether Fresno can truly provide a sustainable future. The streets that once seemed full of promise now feel hollow. Echoing a larger truth, livability matters as much as affordability. Fresno's story mirrors a growing national problem. Cities can be cheap, but if climate, infrastructure, and services fail, people leave. Affordability without opportunity or safety cannot sustain a community. The very heart of a city, the rhythm of daily life, the trust in public systems, the energy on the streets is at stake. So, the question lingers, can Fresno adapt before more residents abandon its streets? Or is this a cautionary tale for other cities relying solely on cheap housing to attract people? Each vacant apartment, each silent street, each frustrated resident is a warning. Fresno reminds us of a critical lesson. A thriving city requires more than affordable rent. It needs reliable infrastructure, resilient systems, and a community that can withstand environmental pressures. Otherwise, cheap housing becomes meaningless, and neighborhoods that once promised opportunity fade quietly into emptiness. As we reach the final number, remember this. Fresno is a warning for cities across America. Affordability is tempting, but without resilience, opportunity, and livability, even the most inviting urban landscapes can collapse. And now, the countdown reaches its most alarming city. Number 1, a place where cheap rent hides a danger no one could have anticipated. Number 1, Stamford, Connecticut. Once a thriving commuter city, perfectly positioned for professionals working in New York City. Luxury apartments, high-rise towers, and bustling streets made it feel like the ideal place to live. But behind the gleaming skyline, a quiet collapse is taking hold and few see it coming. Remote work has transformed the very foundation of the city. Offices that once drew thousands of daily commuters now sit partially empty. Workers who once fueled the economy and rental market are staying home more, relocating entirely. Luxury apartments that were fully occupied a year ago now stand vacant, and landlords offer incentives just to fill units. The streets, once alive with energy, now feel eerily still. Take Lisa, a marketing professional who chose to work remotely permanently. Her apartment in a prime downtown building remains empty, reflecting a broader shift that developers and city planners underestimated. Meanwhile, Tom, a cafe owner, watches foot traffic vanish almost overnight. Every empty office, every vacant apartment, is a warning of a domino effect quietly spreading through Stamford. And here's the alarming truth. Stamford's crisis is about more than just empty apartments. It's about the collapse of a system that tied housing, commuting, and urban life together. Businesses struggle, public transit is underused, and the vibrancy that once defined the city is fading. What was once a predictable, thriving urban ecosystem is now fragile and uncertain. Even longtime residents feel the tension. Schools, parks, and neighborhoods lose their energy as families reconsider whether Stamford is still the city they imagined. The once thriving community pulse slows, and with it, confidence in the future. Stamford teaches a sobering lesson. Cities that depend on a single lifestyle commuting to offices, clustered industries, or dense urban activity are vulnerable to sudden, unforeseen shifts. One change in behavior, one societal trend, and the ripple effects can destabilize everything from rents to community cohesion. So the question is clear. Can Stamford reinvent itself, or is this a glimpse into a new reality for American cities everywhere? Empty streets, vacant luxury apartments, and struggling businesses are more than local problems, they are warnings of a broader shift in how we live, work, and value cities. At number 1, Stamford shows us that even seemingly safe, affluent cities are not immune. Cheap rent or luxurious amenities cannot save a city if the very lifeblood its people, its work, its daily rhythm is gone. And as this countdown ends, the lesson is undeniable. Stability requires more than buildings. It requires community, opportunity, and adaptability in a world that is changing faster than most cities can keep up with. These 10 cities show a harsh truth. Cheap rent alone can't save a city. Jobs, infrastructure, community, and resilience matter more than any bargain. From Toledo to Stamford, hidden crises are quietly reshaping America's neighborhoods, leaving empty streets and shattered opportunities. If you want to uncover the real story behind U.S. cities, spot hidden trends, and see where the risks and chances really lie, subscribe to Locara TV and hit the notification bell. Don't miss the warnings that could change how you see every city around you.